Imagine sitting alone in a dark apartment, your thumb endlessly scrolling through a dating app while thousands of strangers live just beyond the walls. It feels modern. It feels normal. But deep inside your brain, something far older is quietly protesting. Hidden beneath language, beneath civilization, beneath every love song ever written, lives a survival system shaped over 300,000 years of human evolution. It was never designed for glowing screens or crowded cities. It was designed for campfires, shared children, and small tribes. The greatest mystery may not be why love hurts today, but why our ancient hearts still expect a world that no longer exists. Why did humans evolve deep romantic bonds while our closest relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos, followed very different social paths? The answer may lie in one of evolution's cruelest compromises. Around 2 million years ago, our ancestors began walking upright. Bipedalism freed their hands to carry tools and food, but it also reshaped the pelvis, making childbirth far more difficult. At the same time, natural selection favored larger and larger brains. Evolution faced an impossible dilemma. Babies with bigger heads could no longer remain safely in the womb until fully developed. The solution was astonishing. Human infants began entering the world much earlier than expected. Compared with other primates, we are essentially born about 12 months too soon. At birth, the human brain is only about 30% of its adult size, leaving newborns remarkably helpless. This changed everything. A mother carrying an infant that depended on years of care could not easily gather food, avoid predators, and raise additional children alone. Anthropological research among the Ache people of Paraguay found that when fathers were absent, child mortality before age 15 more than doubled, from roughly 20% to 45%. Pair bonding was no romantic accident. It became a survival strategy. What do you think? If human babies had been born as independent as young chimpanzees, would love have evolved into the powerful force we know today? Share your thoughts before we uncover the next piece of the puzzle. But even two devoted parents were rarely enough. Human mothers gave birth every 3 to 4 years, much sooner than chimpanzees or bonobos, whose births are typically separated by 5 to 6 years. That meant our ancestors often cared for several helpless children at the same time, creating an enormous burden that no single pair could reliably carry. So humanity discovered another evolutionary breakthrough: cooperative breeding. A newborn was never the responsibility of only its mother and father. Grandmothers, aunts, uncles, older siblings, and even unrelated members of the band shared the work of feeding, protecting, carrying, and comforting every child. Survival became a collective investment. This social network solved a problem that biology alone could not. Recent evolutionary models suggest that primates relying only on mothers reach a practical brain size limit of around 665 cubic centimeters before reproduction becomes too slow to sustain the population. The modern human brain averages more than 1,200 cubic centimeters, nearly double that threshold. Without alloparents, such a costly brain might never have evolved. Even fossil teeth from Homo erectus reveal evidence of earlier weaning, suggesting that community support appeared before our dramatic brain expansion. In other words, villages did not emerge because humans became intelligent. Humans became extraordinarily intelligent because villages came first. If prehistoric love looked anything like a modern wedding, the archaeological evidence tells a very different story. Across many hunter-gatherer societies, long-term partnerships certainly existed, but they were often more flexible than the lifelong, exclusive marriages familiar today. Marriage was not only about romance. It was a strategy for building alliances, sharing resources, and protecting future generations. Among the Bari people of South America, researchers documented a remarkable belief known as partible paternity. A child was thought to receive life from more than one man during pregnancy. As a result, several men could recognize the same child as partly theirs, each contributing food, protection, and care. Long-term studies found that children with more than one acknowledged father had significantly higher survival rates, around 80%, compared with about 64% for children with only one recognized father. Meanwhile, archaeology reveals another sophisticated strategy. At the 34,000-year-old Sunghir burial site in Russia, DNA analysis showed that individuals buried together were not close relatives. Even small Ice Age communities deliberately exchanged partners across distant groups, reducing inbreeding and strengthening social alliances. So perhaps prehistoric relationships were never simply about choosing a mate. They were about building networks strong enough to keep an entire community alive. What surprises you the most? That some societies accepted shared fatherhood? Or that Ice Age people carefully avoided inbreeding tens of thousands of years ago? Let us know in the comments before we explore the moment that changed love forever. For hundreds of thousands of years, people owned little more than what they could carry. Then, around 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Agriculture tied families to the same fields year after year. Forests became farmland. Temporary camps became permanent villages. For the first time, wealth could be stored, not only in tools or food, but in land, livestock, and grain. A new question suddenly became vital. Who will inherit all of this? To answer it, societies needed greater certainty about biological parenthood. Flexible relationship systems that had once strengthened survival gradually gave way to stricter rules governing marriage, inheritance, and female sexuality. Across many farming cultures, women increasingly moved into their husband's community, a residence pattern known as viralocality. Research by anthropologists Andrea Migliano and Mark Dybel suggests that earlier hunter-gatherer groups often enjoyed far greater flexibility in where couples lived after marriage. This mobility helped connect unrelated families, encouraged cooperation, and reduced inbreeding. As permanent settlements expanded, many of these networks weakened. Property, rather than mobility, became the foundation of social life. Marriage was no longer just a partnership between two people. It became a legal and economic institution designed to protect land, bloodlines, and inheritance. In many places, the history of love became inseparable from the history of ownership, and the echoes of that transformation may still shape our relationships today. Now imagine returning to that lonely apartment from the beginning of our story. You have a partner. You have a home. You can message anyone in seconds. Yet millions of people still describe an overwhelming feeling of isolation. Why? Perhaps because our brains are still waiting for something they evolved to expect. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, a newborn is often held, comforted, and cared for by many different adults within the first hours of life. Throughout childhood, grandparents, relatives, neighbors, and friends all share the work of raising the next generation. If one caregiver disappears, the child is rarely left without support. The tribe itself becomes the safety net. Modern life asks something entirely different. We expect one person to be our lover, best friend, co-parent, therapist, financial partner, emotional refuge, and lifelong companion. All at once. From an evolutionary perspective, that is an extraordinary burden. No single individual was ever meant to replace the support of an entire community. So when relationships feel strained, it may not simply reflect personal failure. It may reveal a mismatch between an ancient social brain and a modern world built around small households, privacy, and independence. Our hearts still remember the circle around the fire, even if our lives no longer do. Our hearts were shaped in small tribes, not in isolation. For thousands of generations, love was supported by an entire community, not carried by just two people. So perhaps the question is not whether we have forgotten how to love, but whether we have forgotten how to belong. What do you think? Is modern love struggling because people have changed, or because our ancient brains still long for the world they evolved in? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy documentaries about ancient humans, evolution, and archaeology, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more journeys into our shared human past.